The night I learned how quietly rejection can sit beside hope began with a single empty chair across from me, a glass of untouched water, and the soft hum of a diner that didn't care whether my heart stayed whole or cracked apart. I remember thinking how strange it was that a place filled with warm lights and holiday decorations could feel so cold when you realize you're not wanted. I had dressed carefully, practiced smiles in the mirror, and convinced myself that maybe, just maybe, this blind date would be the start of something that finally made sense in my life. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one moment can change a life forever, take a second to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. My name is Matthew, and at that point in my life, I was tired in ways sleep could never fix. I lived in a small apartment in Ohio, worked long hours at a logistics company, and carried the quiet weight of being the person everyone forgot to choose. Friends meant well, but their encouragement always came wrapped in pity. They said I was a good man, dependable, kind, the type someone would be lucky to have, yet somehow I kept ending up alone. When my coworker insisted on setting me up on a blind date, I agreed not because I was hopeful, but because I was exhausted from saying no to possibilities. The diner was classic American comfort, red booths, chrome edges, and Christmas garlands wrapped around the windows even though the season was almost over. I arrived early, sat straight, and watched the door every time it opened. When she finally walked in, she scanned the room, spotted me, and smiled politely. That smile faded faster than I expected. We exchanged a few awkward moments, and I could feel the distance growing before anything real had a chance to begin. She stayed just long enough to be kind, then made an excuse that landed gently but still hurt all the same. I watched her leave, the bell above the door ringing like punctuation on my disappointment. I stayed seated long after she was gone, pretending to scroll through my phone so I wouldn't look as rejected as I felt. My chest tightened, not from heartbreak, but from that familiar sense of being invisible. I wondered what was so wrong with me that even a stranger meeting me with no expectations could decide so quickly that I wasn't enough. The waitress refilled my water without asking, her eyes soft with understanding, and that small gesture nearly broke me. That's when I noticed her. She wasn't sitting near me at first. She had been standing by the counter, waiting for a takeout order, dressed simply but confidently, with a presence that felt calm and steady. Her name, I would later learn, was Abigail. She glanced my way once, then again, not with curiosity, but with recognition, as if she understood something about the way I sat there alone. When her order wasn't ready, she chose a booth nearby and set her bag down, her posture relaxed but thoughtful. Time passed, and the diner grew quieter. I considered leaving, but something kept me rooted in place, like the night wasn't finished with me yet. That was when she turned toward me and asked if the seat across from me was taken. Her voice was gentle, steady, and completely unexpected. I nodded, confused but grateful for the interruption to my thoughts. She sat down, not invading my space, just sharing it. There was no awkwardness in her presence. She didn't look at me like I was a problem to be solved or a moment to endure. She looked at me like a person. We started talking in that natural way that doesn't feel forced, about work, about the town, about how strange blind dates can be. I didn't realize how tightly I'd been holding myself together until her calm attention made it feel safe to breathe again. Abigail told me she lived nearby, that she worked as a caregiver for her younger brother, and that responsibility had shaped her life more than she ever expected. She spoke about loyalty, about commitment, about how society often misunderstands people whose lives don't follow neat timelines. I listened, truly listened, and for the first time that night, I wasn't thinking about how I was being perceived. I was just present. Then the conversation shifted into deeper waters without either of us forcing it. She shared that she was facing a situation that required stability and trust, something that couldn't be solved with money alone. Her eyes held a seriousness that made me straighten in my seat. She explained that she needed a partner in name, someone willing to stand beside her publicly, legally, and emotionally, even if the foundation didn't begin with romance. When she asked if I would consider being her husband, it didn't feel absurd. It felt heavy, real, and strangely grounded. She wasn't asking out of desperation. She was asking out of clarity. She needed someone honest, dependable, and willing to build something meaningful, even if it started in an unconventional way. I didn't answer right away. My mind raced through fear, disbelief, and the echo of being rejected just moments earlier. Part of me wondered if this was some elaborate misunderstanding, but the sincerity in her expression silenced that doubt. I told her I needed time to understand what she was really asking, and she respected that, explaining everything patiently, without pressure. Over the following days, we met again, this time intentionally. We talked about boundaries, values, faith, and what marriage truly meant beyond romance. She didn't promise love. She promised honesty, respect, and effort. In a world obsessed with instant chemistry, her approach felt radical. I realized that what she was offering wasn't an escape from loneliness, but an invitation to purpose. My biggest struggle wasn't deciding whether she was sincere. It was believing that I was worthy of being chosen so deliberately. Years of quiet rejection had taught me to expect less, to be grateful for scraps of attention. Abigail challenged that without even trying. She saw something in me I had stopped seeing in myself. As weeks passed, something shifted. The arrangement that began as practical slowly filled with warmth. Shared meals turned into shared laughter. Silent moments became comfortable instead of awkward. I found myself caring deeply, not because I was supposed to, but because connection grew naturally when nurtured with intention. The day we stood together at a small courthouse in Indiana, there was no grand audience, no dramatic vows, just two people choosing each other with eyes wide open. I thought back to that night in the diner, to the man I was when I felt unwanted and small. I wished I could tell him that rejection was not the end of his story, only the doorway to something unexpected. Marriage didn't solve all our problems. Life remained complicated. Responsibilities were still heavy, but we faced them together, and that made all the difference. Love, I learned, doesn't always arrive as fireworks. Sometimes it comes as a steady hand reaching out when you least expect it, asking if you're willing to try. Near the end of this story, if it touched your heart in any way, if it reminded you that timing isn't everything and worth isn't measured by first impressions, please like this video, share it, and let us know your thoughts. Your engagement means more than you know. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. Leave a comment and tell us, do you believe rejection can be a blessing in disguise? Because I do now. That blind date rejection didn't define me. It redirected me. It led me to a woman who didn't see me as an option, but as a choice. And in choosing each other, we found something deeper than chance. We found intention, commitment, and a love built not on perfection, but on purpose.